Welcome to Wellness is a Way of Life, the podcast for female leaders seeking sustainable energy, clarity, and confidence. I'm Megan Swan, your guide on a journey to mastering wellness as an integrated part of your life. Let's explore personalized wellness strategies that truly resonate with who you are. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm here with Scarlett, otherwise known as the Biz Hippie. Curious to dive into that nickname. Let's turn it over to Scarlett. I am so excited for this conversation, mostly because you touch on some really unique combinations of things. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey to really blending money mindset, your finance background, and coaching, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for having me today, Megan. My name's Scarlett. I am an abundance coach, and I help people, especially entrepreneurs and other coaches, learn to change their relationship with money so that they can create their best lives and live the kind of lives that they want to live. My background is originally in finance. I got my bachelor's degree in business management, accounting, and finance. And I also worked for a company called Richer Than You Think that helps individuals learn to manage their money. So I used to be all business all the time, is how I like to describe it. But while I was getting my bachelor's degree, I was managing restaurants. I was really one of those type A, high achieving, perfectionist, straight A student type of people, and was really focused on money and success at a detriment to myself and my health and my well-being. Just, following what I thought I was supposed to be in order to be successful and do the right thing. And then my pendulum swung from major business mode to total hippie mode, and I went on a huge self-discovery journey, learned who I was, started to choose fulfillment over, quote, success, and started to step into what I call the hippie side of me that got really into coaching and mindset and personal growth and enjoying life and living a fulfilling life. And slowly I began to bring these two sides together, which is how I became the biz hippie, because I believe that there's a equivalent balance that can happen where we can embody the strategic, structural, money management, practical side of our life, and also the freedom, flow, fun, hippie side of our life, and bring those together so that we can really create a fulfilling life. So that's the journey that I've been on for myself. And that's also what I help my clients do in relation to money.
Amazing. So I definitely want to dive into this sort of relationship or the spectrum that you play with. But first, can you go back, because you mentioned that it was affecting your health, seeking success by traditional standards. Can you paint the picture a little bit more so that people can maybe resonate with what that looked like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, growing up, I had always been really focused on doing things right and being successful. So, just being in school, wanting to get straight A's, wanting to be perfect all the time, put a ton of pressure on myself. Like, I was a 7-year-old who had migraine headaches once a week just because I had to be perfect. I had to get it right every single time. And so that translated into my teenage years, into my young adulthood, where really my only focus was on making money, being successful, doing what I thought was the right thing. And so as a result, I really learned to sacrifice pieces of myself and hide and repress parts of myself just to become what I thought success was. So all of my degree, like when I was choosing to go to college, I chose the degree that I thought would be the most successful. That's why I went to business management, accounting, and finance. Part of me enjoyed it, but it was the strategic approach. Another part of me, worked really hard at the job, working in the restaurant industry, and wanted to be the best of the best manager, the youngest manager in the company. And as a result, I was working crazy hours. I had a horrible sleep schedule. I was burnt out from holding school and work at the same time. I had found myself in some pretty harmful relationships as well, separating myself from friends and family. So just feeling really isolated and going down this downward spiral that felt like it was out of my control. I was doing everything right. I was living life the way I should be living life. And when you look on paper, I had lots of success. I had no student loans. I was paying my way through college. I was an 18-year-old who was managing restaurants, who had $30,000 in the bank. Like everything was going well, but at the same time, I was depressed. I was suicidal. I was covered in head to toe eczema. I got constant migraines. I was in a toxic relationship, and I had convinced myself that I was homeless and couldn't go back to my family, and I didn't know who I was. So I was hollow and empty inside, and I was a shell of a human who couldn't even understand why I was living the life that I was living, and I was waiting for my life to actually begin.
Yeah, thank you for that vulnerability, because I think sometimes we say I had health problems or whatever, and it doesn't necessarily. I think it's nice to kind of elaborate and give people a little bit more color to what that looked like, to show all the ways that things like the stress of money can really impact our mental and physical well-being, spiritual, I'm sure you'd say as well. So I'd love to dive in and play a little bit with this thing that you clearly embody, which is the play, the magic, the sort of the elements that we don't normally, or like we're certainly not. Well, we could talk about how we're not really educated in the school system about money. That's a whole other conversation. But most people think money and they think like rigidness, control, safety, maybe like some very like square feelings, and not flow, energy, frequency, magic, all those abundance. So what are some ways that for your clients you help them kind of release this sense of rigidness in a way that feels authentic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is a great question. And there's a few things that we do when we work together. One of the things is just simply defining what money is. And so often it's easy to be like, okay, money is this thing, right? It's a piece of paper that can often feel like it's controlling my life, right? It is in control of me. But I like to say that money is a creator. It's how we choose to create our reality every single day. I like to classify money as an action, right? There are 3 actions that you can take. And when you take those actions, you create your life by how you take those actions. And those actions are time, energy, and money. And so recognizing that money is the way in which you manifest and create your reality also gives back the power and control to you, right? Because you are the one that uses your money to create your life. So I see money as a powerful tool for manifestation. And so one of the ways that we step into the power of money and the flow of money is recognizing that money is not in control of you, but that you can be the one in control of your money, that you already are in control of your money, even if it doesn't feel that way, and learning how to harness that control and that power of money. And instead of feeling like money is determining your life, using your money intentionally and strategically to consciously create the kind of life that you want to live, and using your money to make that happen and to make that a reality.
Yeah, I love that framing. So another question I wanted to ask you, which kind of springs off of that in terms of strategically managing it, I'd love if we could dive a little bit into credit card debt, because we're about to go into a season that most people overspend. This recording will come out in the new year when they're desperately trying to figure out how to pay down their credit card debt. So what are some maybe tangible bits of advice that people aren't necessarily aware of in that area?
Yeah, and credit card debt is a huge component that I work on with my clients because we do the intangible work of changing your relationship with money, but then we also do the tangible work as well because both those pieces are important. And so when it comes to credit card debt, I love to ask, well, what actually is credit card debt? And my answer to that is someone loaned you money, right? So, on the one hand, we can have this blanket emotional response that debt is bad, which in some cases is true, but it's not inherently true. And so, one of the energetic or emotional components that comes to debt is an energy leak. Right. It feels like it's something that's weighing on you. It feels like it's draining your energy. It's in the back of your mind, worrying you and stressing you out. So, one piece is changing your relationship to the debt that you already have, recognizing why did you choose to take on this debt, and then accepting those decisions that you made to borrow money from someone else for a cause, right? And so sometimes that cause can be worth it and sometimes it might not be. But if you already have the debt, you made this decision for your life. And so when you accept it, you can release some of the weight and the pressure that that is currently holding and then focus your energy on crushing the debt. So that's one piece, is looking at that internal component first, because it is totally weighing you down. And if anything, that will keep you in this debt spiral.
Yeah, no, I
The
love that you say that because I
yeah.
talk a lot about energy leaks. And I think this is a massive one that most people maybe aren't aware of, but certainly should be. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's also important to recognize that it is possible to crush your credit card debt. Sometimes when we start to accumulate debt, it can feel like this never ending spiral that's never going to end. And we just kind of resign and accept that this is the way it's going to be. But I want you to know that it is possible for you to crush your credit card debt. And there's a variety of ways that you can do that. Where the harm of the credit card debt comes in is from interest rates, creating this trap where you become stuck in the credit card debt because if you're consistently paying minimum payments, but your interest charges are equivalent or more than that minimum payment, you will be stuck in that debt. And so you need a more targeted and strategic approach to make crushing your credit card debt possible. So it is possible, but you have to recognize that in order to make it happen, you're going to have to do something different than what you've already been doing in order to make it happen.
I love that you frame it that way because it makes me think like in a lot of similarities with my work with clients. You can at some point you just have to decide to stop going down the same road. And the sooner you decide that, even if it's a small change, you're going to be in a better position than just kind of waiting to do something differently because it seems like too much or not fun or hard. Like it's not going to be easy, but at the end, it's like visualizing how do you want to feel. And for you, I'm sure it's framing, the freedom from that debt, the massive release of energy that's been weighing you down, knowing that. And I think like anything, it's one thing that's not really taught to us is the beauty and the power of discipline in terms of I'm going to set out this goal, in this case, crushing this debt, and believing you can do it and then showing yourself you can do it. And then that amplifies into bigger problems or goals that you want to achieve over time.
Absolutely. And something that you said is a huge theme for my clients, which is especially when we do have debt or things that are not things that we don't like when it comes to our money, and we are thinking about crushing the credit card debt or achieving those goals, it can feel like we're sacrificing. Like, oh, I have to sacrifice the things that I want in order to crush my credit card debt. I have to stop eating out as much. I can't do the things I want to do. I have to cut back in order to even start to achieve this goal. And what I like to say to my clients is, how can we get out of the mindset of sacrificing and into the mindset of choice, right? Because You are the one in control of the decisions that you're making. You're the one that made the decisions that got you to where you currently are and are creating your current results. And you're the one that's in control of where you go from here. So instead of seeing it as I have to sacrifice because I have this credit card debt, recognize what are you choosing and why is that important to you? And saying, oh, actually, it's going to feel so good to not have this weighing me down anymore, to not have the pressure of this debt. And what I'm choosing is the financial freedom that I'm going to gain by choosing to put my money towards my credit cards as opposed to going out this one time. And how can you emotionally let that drive you and motivate you, the result that it's going to feel like when you do achieve this goal? And how can you let that dictate your choices? So instead of sacrificing, it's choosing the thing that you want and being in control of the money that you have.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm just like thinking of all these parallels, and I use the word agency, right? Like bringing agency back to your life. You said choice. It's the same thing, really. And there's just so many similarities to over-consuming in terms of overspending and just over-consuming in terms of food, Netflix, like whatever it is. And this, I love if you could talk about, what is it for people that you see, your clients, in terms of, we get stuck in this because, for example, in my work, the overconsumption problem or the story that we've been told is at the end of the day, there's a surgery, there's a pill, there's like something that could get you out of your decades of bad decisions, if at worst case scenario, right? Like there's a quick fix, there's a medical solution, etc. In the money ecosystem, do you think like there's a similar mentality of like some sort of quick fix or something that's coming to save them from continuously making bad decisions, and whether it's debt or otherwise, spending beyond their means?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it's less of a quick fix and more of denial. Because you can make a lot of bad financial decisions and still proceed to live your life for a long extended period of time with a underlying stress and overwhelm there all the time. And I think people get used to living with this stress, going through cycles of stress, and honestly, even accepting, well, this is just the way life is. I can't get financially ahead. I was poor growing up and I'm going to die poor, and someday I will die, and whatever. I know that I lived my life to the fullest or to the best of my abilities, but I just had this constant underlying financial stress. And the biggest thing that I see is fear of actually looking at it, fear of looking at the reality of the situation and really seeing what is going on. And so people ignore it. They pretend like it doesn't exist, even though they know it does. And if anything, they start to exaggerate their problems because they're not seeing it, because they're not looking at it. And that just keeps it spiraling over and over and over again. I would say the closest quick fix would be filing for bankruptcy, which I've seen clients do before. But even that really isn't an actual fix, because if you have had these patterns and made these choices that have led you to the point where your only result was to file for bankruptcy, and then it's kind of a clean slate, then what happens is, further down the line, you find yourself in the exact same position.
You still have those behaviors as your default mode, right?
So, right. It just happens all over again.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as with my work. Like ultimately, you have to change the stories you're telling yourself in your head, which may be yours, maybe your family's, some from society. Like what I see as the commonality is bringing awareness and consciousness to what's actually going on, and then plug in your agency. Oh, wait, I have choices here, and appreciating like visualizing the end goal of how you want to feel, which is empowered, in control, freedom from this stress. So yeah, I love this conversation. Can we talk for a moment about the power of gratitude? Because I'm sure you bring it into your work as well. I'd love to hear how you frame it for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a huge part of that is, with the money game, it's easy to get sucked up in not enoughness and thinking, okay, someday when I have lots of money, then I'll be happy, or then I'll finally have free time, and then I'll finally get to say yes to do the things that I want to do, and I can finally live my best life. But that becomes the finish line that you can never reach, because then you get to that finish line and you realize, oh, that's not enough. And then you keep going and you get to another finish line and you realize, oh, that's not enough. So the finish line keeps moving. And this is why we live in a society where there's a huge accumulation of stuff. Like, when I finally get enough stuff, then I'll finally feel good and I will fill this void and this discomfort that I've just been carrying. And so the race to get more is a never ending and unfulfilling one. And so part of the work that I do with my clients is recognizing what you already have and the power behind what you already have. It's easy for people to think that they don't have money, right? I hear people say that all the time. I have no money. I can't afford this. I can't do these things. And focusing on what they don't have and wishing that it could be different. But the reality is, I'm 99% confident that anybody listening to this right now has money. Even if it's 1 cent, you have money. Even if it's being spent, you still have money, right? And so recognizing that you actually already do have money in your life and that your money is your power, it's your control, it's how you choose to live your life and create the kind of life that you want to live. And so gratitude comes back to recognizing what you do have and recognizing the opportunity to be in control of it, to make choices with it, and how to use what you have strategically and intentionally to create the life that you want to create. I teach my clients how to step into abundance now with the money that they have, because abundance is not some magical amount that you will reach someday. It's a state of being with the money that you already have and with the life that you already have, and using that money to create the life that you want to live, starting right now with the amount you currently have.
Yeah, couple things. I mean, to me, I think it's so important to also think of, like, okay, connecting money to freedom or money to security. It's like, let's get real about what your existing lifestyle is and how, compared to other parts of the world or other parts of your city or other parts of the country, how unbelievably fortunate you likely are if you're listening to this podcast, right? Like, it's just sitting in the abundance of, I have shelter, I have abundance of, you could probably list off 100 things that you have in abundance. And I think it's so important to really sit in that emotion and get comfortable feeling like enough, which leads me to my last question, because I know you're going to have some really great insight. How do you help people shift out of, my individual self-worth is a number in my bank account, or is somehow, even like how much, let's say money's power, how much power I can wield? Like, how do you help people heal that relationship of not making it so direct, or maybe you have a different opinion?
Yeah, right. Because it is very easy to attach your self-worth to not only the amount of money that you have, but your beliefs around money, right? Because often we don't have an accurate picture of how much money we actually have unless we're doing the tangible work of managing our money, which most people are ignoring, right? So there's 2 pieces to this. One is the intangible piece and one is the tangible piece. And it all comes back to awareness. So what I help my clients do is bring awareness to their current relationship with themselves, to develop self-trust and self-love and self-confidence, because that's really what it comes down to. Is your relationship with your money is a reflection of your relationship to yourself, because how you choose to spend your money is based on what's important to you, based on what you value, based on what you prioritize. So as you bring awareness to yourself, your beliefs, your stories, your mindset around money, the different parts of yourself, and you learn how to be in control of the choices that you're making, how to choose what's most important to you, how to choose to make those decisions in alignment with the kind of life you want to live instead of rooted in fear and scarcity and lack and not enoughness and based on the beliefs that were passed down from your parents that you developed in childhood, right? So developing awareness around your internal reality, how you're currently creating your reality and gaining back that control and that power and learning to trust yourself to make intentional aligned decisions about your life and understand how you're already making these decisions. And then there's the tangible component of learning to track and manage and be strategic with your money, because this is another form of awareness. How you spend your money is how you're creating your life. And so learning to look at your money on paper is learning to see, what am I choosing? What am I creating? What am I deciding? And what kind of life am I living? So getting that on paper, having full awareness around the choices that you're making, and learning to use that information to be strategic and intentional with moving forward. That's how you can achieve the goals that you want to achieve, like crushing your credit card debt or saving for something important like retirement or pursuing your business full time and taking a trip. Whatever it is you want to do, you have to get that awareness on paper so that you can see what is happening and make decisions about your life. So it really comes down to this combination of internal work and owning your internal power and control by learning to trust yourself, stepping out of scarcity and stepping into abundance, and then the tangible work of bringing that into reality by getting comfortable with managing and tracking your money and learning to use that money strategically to actually live the life that you want to live.
Amazing. Do you do abundance rituals?
Well, yeah, I do. I love to recommend
Share a couple of them
to
with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one is to spend time with your money. That's a really simple one, and what this can look like on a variety of spectrums is getting comfortable with checking your bank account and bringing gratitude into that and saying, I'm grateful for this money that is here for me. Another step is looking at the money coming in and the money going out. This is getting down to managing and tracking your money and then bringing gratitude into that. Looking at where the money is coming from and being grateful that that money is coming in, and looking at what you're spending and where it's going. And instead of being like, oh, darn, the electric bill is so expensive, bringing gratitude into, I'm so grateful that I have the money available to get to spend it on my electric bill because this is what gives me heat and light. And I'm so grateful that I get to have heat and light in my life. So really finding that gratitude and presence and awareness around the flow of money coming in and money going out. And those are just two components, but really being even more intentional with how you spend your money with gratitude. And also, again, just like we've been talking about this whole time, that power of choice with every dollar that you spend. Say, what am I choosing? What am I affirming? And how is this creating my vision with every single dollar that I spend?
Mm-hmm. So much wisdom, Scarlett. Thank you so much. How do you want people to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at the Biz Hippie. I'm very active on there. So if you want to reach out and say hi, please feel free to shoot me a DM. And I also love to offer a special offer just to my podcast listeners, which is a free abundance activation session, which is a half-hour live session with me where we're going to dive into your relationship with money and give you some potent shifts so that you can already start to create abundance starting right now. And you can sign up for that abundance activation session for free on the website www.thebizhippie.com/activate.
I love that. Well, we'll share all of those links in the show notes so it's easy for people to find you. And I'm going to go follow you right now on Instagram. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, for all of these real, I think, game-changing reframes for people, because, we tend to be intentionally unconscious about our relationship with money because it seems easier, I think, when actually it's really not. And ultimately, I think, I've been reading all sorts of books on wealth from different perspectives and money mindset, and just understanding, like, you get to define that word wealth for yourself. And most people who are financially wealthy are doing all these things. They're looking at their money. They have a very deep relationship with their money. They're doing these things much more consciously, and we're raised to do it that way. And just tapping into that wisdom as well. So thank you so much, and we really appreciate you being here. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much for having me, Megan. It was awesome chatting with you today.
Thanks for tuning in to Wellness is a Way of Life. Are you ready to make wellness a natural part of your routine? Let's stay connected. Go to meganswanwellness.com. Until next time, live well and thrive.